Hello, folks. Welcome back to WW2 TV. This is an impromptu show. I just scheduled it a few minutes ago, so I don't think there's anybody watching this live. I'm just reacting to having watched episode 3 of Masters of the Air. I did a little review of the first 2 episodes, and wow. Wow. Spoiler alert. If you have not seen the series yet, if you've not seen episode 3, probably stop watching right now, because they may be giving away some vital plot points. But I'm doing this. I literally stopped watching it 5 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago, and I'm expressing my thoughts right fresh as live to you now. So we've known that Masters of the Air has been on the horizon, no pun intended, for years. I mean, it has been talked about for years. The expectation has been building, and there's been a lot of reaction to the first 2 episodes. You heard me in my previous show talking about the geeks grumbling about this and grumbling about that, and I find it very surprising that people would want to find all these holes in it. And sure, there were little things in episodes 1 and 2 that niggled some people, but it's entertainment. But episode 3, well, the first thing is there was no narration in this episode. It started off with the action, it took us through the action, and it ended with shots of the surviving B-17s in Algeria. Again, spoiler alert. So what are we looking for when we are looking for a series like Masters of the Air that's talked about as like the third of this legacy series of Band of Brothers, the Pacific, and now talking about the 8th Air Force and the 100th Bomb Group? Well, we want to see air combat portrayed. That's what we are looking for. We want to see what it was like to be part of massed formations of B-17s flying into occupied Europe and delivering their payload. And well, this episode delivered in spades. I mean, we saw bombing raids in the first 2 episodes, but this, I mean, it was all cranked up to a incredible level in this one. And the history, the Regensburg mass raid was a pivotal one in the 8th Air Force's development, and it's only going to get worse, folks. If having read about the 8th Air Force as we go in further into the series, there are more devastating raids coming. But you know, we have been really thrust into air combat in Europe with episode 3. It was like there's a part in the middle of the episode where it was like a kind of a macabre, almost gothic operatic ballet playing out. They kind of slowed down the action. The orchestra is cranking up, and you're seeing parts of aircraft tumble out of the sky, and men who've bailed out. And it's this, I say orchestra is the word that comes to mind, this visual and audio surround experience of being there. And I have affection for Memphis Belle. Back in the 90s, I was an extra on that film for a couple of days. I forget which base I was filming. It was in Bassingbourn. I can't remember. But Masters takes it to a level that we've not seen on screen before. Just the horror of watching these aircraft tumble out of the skies and what was happening inside them, and bullets and the ricochets and things falling apart, and fuel lines going and engines breaking off and flames and fire. And I read a couple of people saying that maybe they cranked up some of the explosions, and sometimes aircraft just did fall out of the sky, and maybe there's a little bit too much in the way of fireballs. But to me, I don't see those criticisms at all. I feel that they're trying to just place you there, and they absolutely did that. And the suddenness, the thing about Band of Brothers, and you know, we all love Band of Brothers, is that character deaths were often quite slow. I'm thinking of Hubler when he shot himself with a German pistol in the Ardennes. You know, we saw that death play out quite quickly. Then there were the deaths of Muck and Penkala kind of suddenly in the foxholes, but we kind of knew it was coming. That bombardment had started. We knew it was going to be leading to something terrible. With this and aerial combat, what I think it's showing is the complete utter lottery nature of it. You know, there's bombers flying along in formation, and then one just disappears. Then a few minutes later, another one just disappears, and that's what that show was doing. The character development has been questioned. People are saying that perhaps they didn't get to know these characters as well. And again, I think from my point of view, we're making too much of a comparison with Band of Brothers, which the analogy I've been using this week is the Band of Brothers is now our comfortable pair of shoes. We've worn those shoes many times. We love those shoes. They fit us well. We know all about the shoes. Masters of the Air is a brand new pair of shoes still. And, you know, we've spent a lot of money on those shoes. I'm going to stick with this shoe analogy. And we know we're going to like those shoes, but right now they're still a bit tight. They're still a bit, they're causing a little bit, they're rubbing on our skin a bit, but we're not comfortable in them yet. And I think one of the things we forget about modern TV and modern films is that I don't think we're meant to just watch it once. I mean, when I was a kid and I went to the cinema on a Saturday morning, it'd be cartoons and a couple of movies, and you get B movies back in the day. You know, you'd go and see something, you know, a Michael Caine movie, but there'd be like a B movie on supporting it, and you kind of spent the whole day at the cinema. I remember seeing Octopussy in 1982, 83. I was like 13 or 14. I think I spent the whole day there. And you saw that movie once, and then maybe you would see it a year and a half, 2 years later on TV. Again, once. This is pre-VCR, the ability to record these things. Well, now, the writers of a show like Masters of the Air know that those of us that have got Apple TV, and in my case, I got it just to watch this TV show, we're probably going to watch each episode once, twice, 3 times before the next episode airs. And that's what I will be doing. And I think character development doesn't need to be completely given to us in the first viewing. There are layers to a modern TV show. And I think that's what the filmmakers are relying on. They're not expecting the audience to watch it once and never watch it again. They're expecting us to go back and watch it. And I'm already looking forward to either I'll watch the first 3 episodes, or maybe I'll get to the end of it and watch them all again. I don't know quite how I'm going to do it, fitting in with what I do here on World War II TV, but I will not be leaving it a long time before I watch those episodes again. I'm imagining that, having now seen episode 3, I will see some of the characters now in episodes 1 and 2 and kind of go, that's him. That's that crew there. I see the guy with the curly hair as the guy from that aircraft there. And I think that's the intention. They're expecting us to watch it with repeated viewings. And I think that's what we're going to be doing. So, I'm hoping that episode 3 will kind of shut up the Rivet counters, because one of the comments I saw on Facebook was it was the wrong size windows in the Quonset or the Nissen huts in the air base. And I'm like, really? Is that what you're noticing? Is that what you care about? TV shows are meant to hit a large audience. They're not for us. We are part of the audience they're aiming for. I'm repeating what I said in the first review, but they're trying to compete with all the other TV that's on offer, the sports channels, the Marvel films, the universe, the Star Wars, all these other things that are, people are binge watching. They're not aiming at just the people who have collections of B-17 models on their their shelves and hanging from the ceiling and fishing wire, and have read all the websites and checked all the data tables of the B-17Fs and all that kind of stuff. They're not aimed at that audience. They're aimed at a wide audience. And I would defy anybody to not get emotionally involved with episode 3. You'd have to have a heart of stone. You'd have to, I think, almost not be a human being to not. I was moved to tears in the middle of episode 3. I was watching a raid I've read about pretty much all of my life. I have a cousin who was shot down with Bomber Command on his second tour, a Lancaster bomber. And I was thinking about William Bunting, my cousin, and how he lost his life. And this macabre orchestra that I mentioned earlier was playing out in front of me. And my mind was with my cousin. My mind was with Bomber Command and 12th Air Force and 15th Air Force. And again, I wasn't just seeing this as a portrayal of the 100th Bomb Group. I was seeing it as a portrayal of young men flying to war in aluminium, or as the Americans would say, aluminum tubes, flying over that horrendous flak and an enemy aircraft fighter and all that. And if that's what the writers and the producers were going for, to get people to react to it emotionally, then they have achieved that, and they've achieved that in spades. I forgot during the program, during watching it, that I was a World War II historian. I was watching it as just a human being seeing these aircraft tumble out of the skies and seeing aircraft crash and people be blown up and maimed, and that's what. So, and Scott Grimwood, I think there's one of the complaints I think you're referring to is the fact that the 8th Air Force briefing, or the group commander says something like, "This is the biggest air armada ever formed," and someone said, "Yeah, well, the British had been done one bigger than that months earlier." Of course. The same as the comment I made in the first and 2 episodes. You're not meant to be taking what that guy says as a historical record of World War II. He is briefing his men, the men who he is sending out to bomb Europe on. At that point, they believe they've got their tactics worked. They've worked out that they're going to take this flight path, and the first wave is going to draw the enemy fighter fire, then the second wave, blah, 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 and they're going to all fight to Africa and hoodwink the Germans. And we historians who knew about that, we know that wasn't going to happen. The fog delays the takeoff, etc., etc. There's problems with coordination. It's the same old, same old. But the point is, when he says this is the biggest air armada that's ever been unleashed on enemy, or whatever the words he actually uses, and people say, well, the British had done one 6 months earlier. That's not the point. You wouldn't motivate your men by saying this is the second biggest or this is the third biggest raid of the war. You're trying to convey to your men the importance of this and make them feel part of something new, something that is going to bring the war to an end. You don't say, when if you're a platoon commander in Normandy, you don't say to your men, well, we're going to go and take that hill, and it may not have any outcome on the war. This may not change the outcome of the Battle of Normandy. The Germans we kill may not have been actually involved in the fight. No, what you're going to say is, taking this hill is going to save lives elsewhere. What we're going to do by taking this crossroads is vital for the war effort, and that is what the group commander is doing in the briefing in the series. He is motivating his men for what they are going to do. So he's using hyperbole, he's using exaggeration. The biggest air armada, the biggest, we're going to knock the Germans out the war, blah blah blah. And the fact is, we're seeing it through the lens of the 100th Bomb Group, who are one of the several bomb groups that are in the UK. There'd been other raids. The 100th Bomb Group had, maybe didn't have the worst day or the best day. I remember something Bill Garnier said to me once. I'm dropping names now. While Bill Garnier of Easy Company, he said to me, every soldier thinks he's in the muddiest foxhole with the nastiest sergeant major shouting at them, with the most shells exploding over his head and the most ferocious enemy soldiers in front of him. He said it's a historian's job to rate those experiences and say, actually, you know what, on that particular day, you didn't have it as bad as F Company or see 3rd Battalion over there. They had tanks coming at them where you only had armored cars. And I think the same thing can be applied to Masters of the Air. We may better say that, you know what, that raid probably wasn't as disastrous as this raid over here and this raid here. That for the perception of those guys flying in that, and that's what they conveyed in this episode, you are flying into the jaws of hell. You are flying, the hours of that flying time over Europe, the amount of time they were flying over enemy positions, and you were with them. My heartbeat was increasing when I was watching it, when you're realizing, shit, they've still got 4 hours of flying time. They cut back a couple of times to the briefings, and the commander saying, well, they should be over, Belgium, Germany, whatever it is. This group has not yet taken, is reaching this point there. So you're kind of following it play out from within the B-17, but you're also seeing it playing out from back at headquarters, so to speak. So yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. And I just hope that the Rivet counters the geeks out there. And I can be geeky. I can notice certain things that, that would ideally have been corrected. But, I don't care. I am there to be moved, to be emotionally invested. And that's the thing, that when I read military history books, usually they reach me on some kind of emotional level, but not always. But books only can reach a certain amount of all senses emotion, if that makes sense. I know the book lovers, and I'm a book lover, so I know, but sometimes I'm swept away when I'm, reading fiction. You've got an image of who the characters are. You've built your own world, and you're in your own world when you're reading. And I agree with all that. But with a modern TV show, with the surround sound and the big screen and the orchestra playing behind it, and the way it's edited and the cut and the light, and you are at that moment, you are in the middle of something that I don't think literature can achieve. Good TV, good film. I'm going off on a tangent now, but when I first saw Lawrence of Arabia, for example, and I was lucky enough a few years ago to see it on a big screen. I forget where it was shown now, but they showed it on an art house cinema somewhere in London or something. And I saw it on a big screen, and absolutely blown away by it. And sure, Lawrence of Arabia has dubious history in terms of how it portrays the Arab Revolt and First World War and blah, blah, blah. But as a spectacle, as a visual delight, Lawrence of Arabia is unmatched. And I think Masters of the Air, I'm not necessarily comparing Masters of the Air to Lawrence of Arabia. They're made, 60 years apart or something. Yeah, that's about right, 60 years apart. And it's a TV series compared to a film. But Masters of the Air is trying to create something extraordinary. And I will be speaking to John Orloff, the writer, in March, and Donald Miller, whose book it's based on. And I'm already arranging to speak to some of the members of the crew and people who worked on the aircraft, and hopefully some of the family members. I've got some leads to talk to grandkids and children of some of the guys portrayed on screen. And, there we are. It has absolutely, episode 3, done what I thought it was supposed to do. I cannot wait now for episodes 4 and 5 and 6, and I can only feel that my emotional investment is going to be cranked up even more. Episodes 1 and 2 were the kind of the taster, the appetizers for this, and episode 3 absolutely delivered. It was the first of, I think, several main courses were going to be delivered. So there we are. I'm going to leave it at that. Extraordinary. If you've been umming and ahhing about whether or not to go and pay for Apple TV to watch this, because it's another channel to subscribe to, and I am not being paid by Apple TV, by the way. I don't get paid by anybody like that. Just do it. Just get it. Pay for it for 2 or 3 months and cancel if you want to. It's the old cliche. It's the cost of a meal out for a couple of months. It's extraordinary TV. I'll leave it at that. I will be back on Monday. My Monday show is early in the day if you're in the UK, because my guest is in Tokyo, and we're talking about a British First World War aviator who was a spy for the Japanese, because it is Spies, Secrets and Subterfuge week on World War II TV next week. And then lots more stuff coming your way. I've got Masters of the Air shows I'm planning for March. I've got some other shows about strategic bombing, including Bomber Command. I've got a great infantry week coming up. We're returning to the Anzio beachhead. Matthew Graham, who talked about the First Armored, is going to come back on and carry on his talk about Anzio. Ed and Richard O'Sullivan are coming on to talk about the London Irish Rifles and the Irish Guards in the Anzio beachhead. So lots more Italian content coming your way. Basically, I'm hard on the emails, getting in contact with people, and for lots more content coming your way. If you're new to the channel and you've just seen this because you're looking for Masters of the Air and you don't know who I am, well, I run this channel called World War II TV, where there are now over 1,000 videos. I cannot believe it is well over 1,000 videos now on this channel. When I started 3.5 years ago, I thought getting to 100 would be amazing. And now there's over 1,000 sessions of me and my guests talking about war stuff. So if you've been drawn to the channel because of this, check us out. Check out our 8th Air Force playlist. We've got lots of content about men who jumped out of aircraft and were captured by the Germans. We've got individual shows about bomb groups, everything. So I'm going to leave it at that. I want to say enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Ipswich are away at Preston today in an hour's time kickoff. Looking forward to that one. Some new players brought in the transfer season, because football is my other love. But if you're new to the channel, like, click, subscribe, click the little bell to get notifications. If you like what we're doing, consider becoming a patron. But I'm going to leave you now. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. That's Woody's thoughts about Masters of the Air, episode 3. Wow, it was a doozy. Cheers, everybody.